You guessed it, there might be some stripping involved in this video. Okay, so this dresser, where do I even begin? When I first saw it, I couldn't decide if I was horrified or inspired. The finish was rough, layers of thick, uneven paint that looked like it had been applied in a rush. And don't even get me started on the pink rose knobs. You'll see here in a minute. Cute? Sure, in theory. But here, they just didn't do this piece any justice. But here's the thing. I love a good challenge. Beneath this questionable hardware and that chunky paint job, I saw potential. This piece just needed someone to believe in it, bring it back to life, and that's why I decided to save it. After about a week off, to refresh, get refreshed, so important, guys. Listen to your body. I've got this piece of furniture. It's called Style House. I don't know if I'm familiar with Style House furniture, but it is a solid piece. All the drawers are in really good condition, actually. I think just cleaning them up, maybe sanding some of the inside down a little bit will be all that they need, but they actually glide fairly easy. But we do need to remove quite a bit of paint. It's got a lot of, well, it's thick, and there are some areas that have some drips. And what I mean by drips is like right here. I never understand, and maybe, you know what, it's just not knowing, but this doesn't need to happen. All you need to do is sand in between each coat, and obviously this wasn't done. Somebody just slapped some paint over whatever was on here. You have drips. We'll see what the veneer looks like. There's a little bit of a chip veneer right here. But, you know, I'm excited to see what's under all this stuff. You never know. And obviously we will remove these and put on hopefully some hardware that goes with this style. The other side, again, more dripping. And looks like I need to repair a little bit right here. Maybe some glue will fix that. But yeah, more drips. Yeah, lots to, I think I'm gonna use some stripper. I think that'll be the best option. Couple of chips here. But like I said, we'll remove everything first to see what we're working with. So let's get started. Let's completely transform this dresser from the paint and the hardware to its overall style. This piece is getting a whole new look. So let's get to work and see what magic we can uncover. So as I started working on this dresser, cleaning it, removing all the hardware, I knew it needed some serious love, but I thought I could just maybe strip it down, maybe patch a few spots, and give it a fresh new look. But then I flipped it over and, well, you can see. Surprise. The bottom panel is in way worse shape than I thought. It's not only cracked and warped, but has a huge hole, and honestly, it's not even salvageable. Patching it up would just be a band-aid fix, and that's not what I want to do with this piece. This is one of those moments in furniture refinishing where you have to pause and make a decision. Do I keep going and cut corners, or do I put in the extra effort to make this piece solid and last for years to come? For me, the answer is always clear. I'm doing this the right way. Sometimes furniture has hidden surprises that you don't notice until you really get into the project. But that's the beauty of refinishing. Solving problems and bringing a piece back to life, no matter what it throws at you. And now that the new panels are in, this dresser has a solid foundation and we can move forward with the fun part, giving it that fresh new look. Okay, so today's the day. Let's get stripping. And as you can see, it's covered in that thick, drippy white paint. And we're going to find out what's hiding underneath. And you never know what you're going to get until you strip it down. So I'm starting with some clean strip to get through those thick layers of paint. It's messy, but trust me, the results are going to be worth it, and maybe even a little satisfying along the way. All right, Now that I've stripped off most of the paint with clean strip and done some sanding, you might be thinking, that's it, we're ready to move on. But here's the thing, paint can really sink into the wood grain, and sanding alone won't always get that out. This is where acetone comes in. It's one of my favorite products for this type of technique to remove all that paint that gets into the wood grain. It lifts out any stubborn paint particles, and you pair that with a steel wool pad and a brush. It's just perfect for tackling that wood grain without damaging it. If you haven't noticed, you can really see here what was under all this thick paint. It was that blonde finish. And it kind of has a cool history. Blonde finishes were a huge trend in the mid-century era, especially in the 40s and 50s. Back then, lighter wood tones were all the rage because they reflected the optimism of the post-war era, and people wanted furniture that felt fresh, clean, and bright, which was a departure from that darker, more traditional finishes of the earlier decades. All right, I've cleaned, stripped, sanded, and uncovered what was underneath all that paint, but it's not in perfect condition. The drawer fronts in particular have some pretty bad wear and tear and imperfections that need a little extra work. So rather than jumping straight into staining, I'm going to start with a paint wash to kind of even things out and see how it goes from there. A paint wash is a great way to tone the wood while still letting the grain show through. It's thinner than regular paint, so it acts more like a stain, but can help even out the discoloration and imperfections. And I'm going with a lighter neutral tone to kind of try to keep it a soft and subtle tone. After that, I will be adding a top coat and then a glaze that I've done before. I can always change my mind down the road. If it doesn't look good, I can always paint it, but I'm hoping that it will hide a lot of those imperfections. We'll see. Well, I've got a little bit of a problem. My hardware holes are 4 3/4 from center to center, and it's really hard to find that size in the style that I want. So I have a similar style that I bought, they're not here yet, but this is exactly the same. And I thought I'd give it a shot to see how it would fit. And it's not gonna cover the holes. Number one, it's not even thick enough because these holes are a little bigger. So I might use some dowels to put them in here and then do a little repair so you won't even notice. I hate doing that, but I think that's my only option. So things don't always go as planned, but you have to be able to pivot, as Ross would say. Pivot. Anyway, that's my day, trying to figure this out. At this point, I'm still struggling with the overall design of this piece. I'm really unsure about the drawer fronts, with the imperfection on one of the drawers. You can still see it a little bit, and also the hardware holes and the actual hardware, since I don't have those on me. I think you might be able to still see them, so I may kind of pivot and do something a little different with the drawer fronts. I'm still gonna go ahead with all the painting, and then once I'm done, I'm gonna step back and take a look at it and then decide where to go. As far as paint color choice, I'm going with New York Black. It's a melange paint, and it's just a really deep dark, dark black. It's really pretty. I've done it before, used it on multiple pieces in the past, and it's absolutely gorgeous. As I apply the glaze, it's a General Finishes Van Dyke Brown glaze. I will definitely get a better idea as far as the imperfection and seeing if it will hide it a bit. And right here, I'm just removing the dowels that I applied yesterday. And I like to do it from the inside. That way, there's no chance of screwing up the fronts. You can see here the imperfection. There was a big chunk missing out of the veneer, and I did use some wood filler, and then that glaze, it still needed a little more, so I'm using my blend all sticks, which this is actually kind of fun. It's a little art project, I guess you could call it. You always want to start with the lighter color and then kind of fill it in with some of the darker tones. I think it looks okay. After this, you do spray it with some sanding sealer, but I'm still unsure, and we'll kind of decide what we do later on. All right, I have a problem with the drawer fronts, and I think I've made an executive decision. As you can see, right here, this will not blend in very well. And then you have the hardware holes. And I have a lot of people that say, why don't you just get adjustable hardware? Well, I mean, that's a great idea, but usually the adjustable hardware doesn't match this style. And when I put these on here, you're still gonna be able to see the huge holes that they made prior to whoever owned this before. So I've come up with a plan. All right, so after stepping back and taking another look at the imperfections in the wood, I decided to pivot, like I said, and rather than leaving it all wood, trying to hide the flaws, I'm going to not necessarily embrace them, but I will be adding some paint so I can go in and fill in the imperfections and then paint over that. Tape right now is my best friend. I'm using it to section off the areas that I'm going to paint while keeping the rest of the wood grain visible. This is just a great way to kind of work around those imperfections while also adding a custom design to the piece. Obviously, my original plan was to leave everything natural wood, but some of these imperfections just wouldn't look right without a little extra help, and painting these sections not only solves the problem, but adds a nice contrast that highlights the beauty of the wood that I worked so hard to uncover. And this is one of the things I love most about refinishing furniture is you can adapt as you go. Sometimes your original plan just doesn't work out, but that just gives you a chance to kind of get creative and try something new. These painted sections, I think, are going to give this piece a whole new personality. As you see here, I am filling in any of those imperfections with a little more Bondo filler. That way when I paint it, you won't see it. It will completely disappear. One of the biggest challenges when painting wood is making sure you don't get paint bleeding into the wood grain under the tape. So let me show you my foolproof process for getting those perfect crisp lines every time. The first step is to apply your painter's tape and make sure it's pressed down really well, especially along the edges. And this is key for creating a clean barrier between the paint and the wood. Now here's the trick. After taping, I go in with a clear primer and brush it along the edge of the tape. And what this does is to seal off any tiny gaps between the tape and the wood. So when I paint, nothing seeps underneath. You don't need a lot of primer here. Just a light coat along the edge of the tape will do the trick. And once it dries, it creates a seal that prevents any paint from sneaking through. Now that the primer is dry, I can go in with the paint, and I'm careful not to overload the brush so the paint goes on smooth without pooling near the tape edge. I know what you're saying. Didn't you already stain these legs? I did. But you know what? I didn't like how they turned out. So, when in Rome, paint. Is that the saying? Oh, maybe not, but I'm going to go with it. And there you have it, the transformation of this tired, drippy, and dated dresser into a sleek, modern showstopper. What a journey this piece has taken. I started this project thinking I'd keep all the wood, but as you saw, sometimes imperfections push you to get creative. I hope this transformation inspires you to take on your furniture projects, whether it's fixing imperfections or completely reimagining a piece. Remember, every step, even the unexpected challenges, brings you closer to something amazing. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Until next time, happy refinishing.